Hi, welcome to ThinkTech. We are raising public awareness about technology, energy, globalism, and diversification. This show is Center Stage. I am your host, Donna Blanchard, very proud managing director of Kumukuhua Theater, and we are coming to you live from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Kumukuhua Theater. I am excited to bring my guests to you today. They are SheenRu Yong and Ronald Gilliam. They are both involved in a production that is going to be taking place at the Oahu Fringe Festival next weekend. We're going to tell you about it. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to SheenRu and Ronald. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
The Fringe Festival is a really exciting thing coming up. It's a weekend packed with really interesting, inventive, and daring performances from around the country. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Maybe even from around the globe. I'm not sure.
I think there's some international acts as well. So we're going to start by focusing on the work that you are bringing here. And SheenRu, you are a dancer, choreographer, artist, community activist. Yeah?
Something like that.
And Ronald, you are with PlayBuilders. You're the artistic director of
correct.
PlayBuilders of Hawaii. So why don't we start off by saying why the two of you are here together?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Should I start?
Yeah. Go for it.
So this last year, PlayBuilders were a community collaborative theater company. So unlike most of the other offerings in Honolulu, we work with communities to kind of build productions based on original stories that we gather through interviews, story circles, whatnot. And because community collaborative theater, it's really popular in the mainland, especially the West Coast, but not so much here because we're the only company as of now. We decided to actually try to do a visiting artist program. So this is SheenRu is our first artist that we invited. We didn't have a formal call because it's a pilot program for us. So we're inviting SheenRu here, and this production at the Fringe is actually kind of her introduction to the community. So that's why I'm here, is because this is it's kind of a joint thing between SheenRu as our visiting artist and also Leeward Community College Theater and PlayBuilders as well. So the three of us kind of came together and tried to build up this program. So this piece is a little different than PlayBuilders' other work. It's really to introduce SheenRu to the community by restaging one of her previous pieces that she did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you'll be introduced to the community, and then are you planning to create a piece here?
Yes. Yeah, actually that's part of what PlayBuilders has come up with, is to introduce me both to PlayBuilders Ensemble, so that's who's in the piece. It's giving me a chance to work with them, and then through this introduction I'm getting to know how to build a piece here, how to work with the community here, and then from there we're going to do a much larger project on the issue of water. And that's, right now the working title is Flood, Turn the Tide, and that's going to be a year-long process of what Ron said, of interviews and workshops around the island. That's going to culminate in a piece that's going to go up in October, November.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah.
And your pieces are primarily dance, performance art? What would you call it?
Well, I try to push myself and push my range. Generally, I'm a contemporary dancer and choreographer, but my styles are very different. So with PlayBuilders, it'll be more dance theater because they are a theater company, and this is going to be kind of my first experiment in working with a theater company and hopefully building, incorporating dance and incorporating movement into a production like this.
This is so exciting.
Yeah.
It's particularly exciting for me as I came to work with Kumukuhua Theater specifically because we practice theater of place, and I know of a woman named Jo Carson is someone who Terry Madden of PlayBuilders. I think Jo's work was some of the introduction that Terry had to this sort of community building via the theater, and Jo was a friend of mine as well. I believe that anytime you go into a community and gather energy and then display it for people in a different way, you put a different frame around it, that's kind of magical, what it does for a community. And it's even more magical for those people. Well, it's more magical when you have community members involved in the work itself, and it's really magical for those people who get an opportunity to be involved in it in any way.
Yeah.
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 So this is, I think this is very exciting. Do you have, okay, so let's back up then to for the Fringe Festival. The piece that you put together initially when?
Yeah, I was just telling Ron that I started this piece in 2007, which I don't know if he was aware of. So it's been a 7-year series, basically. It's called Readdressing Fairy Tale, and at the end, it's wherever the piece is being made. So it's specific to where it's being presented. So it's been done in Taipei, in Hualien, another city in Taiwan. It's been done in New York, and now it's being done in Honolulu. So it's kind of it's been a journey, yeah.
Yeah. And is it a one-person dance piece, or do you use dancers from collectives where you are?
That's a good question. It's actually been choreographed as a solo, as a duet, and also as a group piece for a cast up to 10 people. So this time we have 5, the PlayBuilders ensemble. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And I just want to say that in the first segment, one of my guests said, "That's a good question." That's always my goal, to have someone say that at some point. It usually happens in the 3rd segment, so you made my day already. So the fairy tale, can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure, yeah. It started off, I started building in Taiwan, where I went to grad school there and danced with the company there. So I was really kind of, you're talking about theater of place. My ideas of art and performing arts was really challenged when I was in Taiwan. I think all of our assumptions are when we live in a different place. And so I was doing a lot of research at the time about what dance is and what is performance and what are the functions of dance and how can we use that as contemporary performance makers. And so this piece started out with me thinking, well, what's relevant and what's authentic on stage? I mean, we talk about authenticity all the time, which is kind of a cliche word that I don't like to go into too much. But how can an audience member really engage with what's happening on stage in real time? So maybe it's not as scripted, maybe it's a bit of improv. So I started with those ideas of how can you take away the pretense of performance and perform what's real. And so I was playing with those ideas, and somehow the idea of storytelling came up. And so we were telling a lot of stories in the rehearsal process. And then I started asking the dancers to improvise these stories on stage for the audience. And so it became this kind of game. Basically, it's a structured game that we play on stage that has lots of rules and lots of cues that the performers give each other. But the audience begins to cue in also and realize that everything's being done live. And so they realize, like, oh, they don't know what they're going to say next, and they don't know what the next person's going to say, and oh, they just called a cue, and they're watching us play a game. So
are they involved in the game? Other than as observers?
That's to be seen.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, for the Honolulu version, I really am trying to. We're still working on that. We're finalizing that, but really working on more audience interaction and participation to actually create the stories as we go. Yeah.
And the fairy tales that you're talking about, are those the fairy tales that your average American is going to be familiar with?
That's another good question. Yes and no.
Ding, ding, ding. You go. You go. Right here.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously it's working with what we already know and what we think about when we think about fairy tales, the associations, and then kind of playing with that. So some of it is to our expectations, and then some of it isn't. Yeah, and it kind of depends on how the performers are feeling in that moment and how much they want to play with these ideas of stories and storytelling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of the fairy tales that I grew up with, we're going to get to you in a minute. I'm so sorry.
No problem at all. She was more exciting than me, so.
We're working our way in. The fairy tales that I grew up with always involved, the ingenue damsel in distress and the strong male who comes in, and very often there's an evil female involved in there. And I'm wondering if you have any
thoughts about that?
Yeah, is there a commentary on that sort of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, part of the research in this piece was also the function of dance as political commentary or, you know, social statement of some kind. That's not how I advertise it, because I think it is such an accessible and entertaining piece that anybody, kids come and watch it and love it, you know, all ages, all backgrounds. But definitely, it's definitely a questioning of what our idea of happily ever after is, and you know, how we put on all these ideas. It has a lot of putting on of roles and identities and hats and costumes, and so it's kind of that idea of that we put all these things on, we take them on, we take on what the ideas we've been taught since day one, you know, and what is our idea of the happily ever after, the prince and the princess, and the, you know, and that's kind of what inspired the piece as well, is my own understanding that, or my own, I guess, process and struggle with the idea that I have to create my own happily ever after. And we all do.
Nice.
So,
we do.
Yeah.
But we do it by peeling away,
exactly.
not by putting it on.
Yeah, well,
right?
yeah, there's both in that. So there's elements of both putting things on and stripping it away.
Wonderful.
So
I just saw The Little Mermaid for the first time last night.
the Disney version?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's crazy, right? But when it came out, I said to a friend, I was young and single and mingling in Chicago, and I didn't have my nieces and nephews around to have an excuse to go see this film. And I watched it and I thought, well, why didn't he grow a tail? Why did she need to have legs?
Yeah, yeah.
That's neither here nor there. So let me ask you this: so the funding for you to be here is coming via Leeward and PlayBuilders?
And we have also under the auspices of
the Taiwan Ministry of Culture,
yeah,
and the Lo Man Fei Dance Fund in Taiwan.
Oh,
yeah.
Wonderful.
So we have about 4 organizations that are coming together, and also the Fringe is also producing us as well. So we're kind of all working together and trying out this new thing.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah.
I love it when that happens. And do you have any other places that you've done this? And here, do you have any sort of efficacy reporting that you do? Do you do anything to, I don't know, survey your audiences, have some sort of Q&A so that you understand how your work is affecting people?
Well, I'm so new here, so I think PlayBuilders actually has an evaluation process.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, but because this is my first collaboration with them, I don't know if we have anything set up for Fringe.
We usually we have something that we always survey people, either through email after the show or sometimes during the show. Most of the time people send us information just because it's usually our work is about community collaboration, so people are really anxious to go in and respond and say, oh, I like this, or maybe you should change this, or so usually there's some give and take with the community.
Yeah.
And we actually, most of our pieces that are part of what we consider our main stage, because this is kind of an addition, usually we do some kind of documentary. So one of our last pieces that we did called Yes I Am, which was a collaboration with the LGBT community in Oahu. We have a documentary that we did called Actors Behind the Masks, and it's about the actors and kind of their growth and forming the piece. And they all were community collaborative artists, some of them on the stage for the first time. So we always do some kind of gauging of our work. That way we can grow as well too. It's important, I think.
Good, yeah. I think it's important for all of us because it's hard to prove the efficacy of our efforts, even though we feel it, we know it's there, but it's hard to quantify that. You know, I can say it feels good and yes, I learned something, but it's hard to put a number to it. So, okay, awesome. How long have you been with PlayBuilders?
I actually been with PlayBuilders since the beginning, but I just joined as their artistic director last season. So I've known Terry since she had the idea of creating PlayBuilders, and I was kind of on board as their marketing consultant. So they hired me through a company I was working for to do their marketing and their website and all these things. And I slowly started becoming more interested in the work, and I've worked before PlayBuilders. I have a stage directing career for about 10 years probably. So before PlayBuilders, I was doing some community collaborative work, but I didn't really call it that. So Terry kind of influenced me to look at more community collaborative companies, and actually we're from the same part of the U.S. We're both from the Appalachian Mountains, and community collaborative theater is quite popular there, of communities coming together and creating their own plays based on their own stories, because maybe Shakespeare may not be as appealing to someone in the mountains versus a folk tale that everyone grew up hearing. So So yeah, I became interested in that, and so I joined about a year ago, and I've made this season was my first season as artistic director, forming the season and trying new things like the visiting artist program, inviting SheenRu, and we have a lot of other exciting things coming up too, since more and more of us are joining on. So we have a new director of education. Her name is Linda. So she's helping us to develop methodology, and also that's what SheenRu is kind of will be using, I think, and trying out as our methodology in her flood piece. And she's working right now with our PlayBuilders ensemble, which is a group of community activists and poets, dancers, artists, musicians that come together once a week. And some of them have very little stage experience, and we teach them how to create community collaborative pieces. So they're constantly training with us, and they participate in our shows, kind of as the elders, I guess, even though some of them are quite young, as the elders of the group, so that a community member doesn't feel the pressure of being on stage for the first time, or they have someone they can go to if they don't feel that the director is as accessible. Maybe they feel more comfortable with a cast member.
Oh yeah.
So.
Awesome. We need to go to our first break. That's just flown by. So okay, where you stay put, we are going to be right back.
Okay, this is ThinkTech Hawaii, and it's Wednesday. Every Wednesday is Energy Wednesday here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. 4 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. Come and listen to us. And just to show you what I mean, I'm going to ask Sharon to tell us more.
Come and see us every Wednesday, as Jay said. And we have people like Jim Albers from HECO here, and co-host Ray Starling here every Wednesday. We not only go on Olelo and OC16, but also stream live. So please come visit us, hear about the latest in clean energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here. You got any comment on all this?
As important as energy is in all of our lives today, this is a great forum and a great format to vet those issues. So I encourage everybody to listen in and participate.
Okay, Ray, what do you think for a close?
Well, I think this is the greatest show in the energy world here in Hawaii. You can come here every week, 1 hour, and catch the latest on what's happening and hear from the people who really know what's going on, like Jim Alberts. We appreciate your coming today.
Thank you.
Ray Starling, Sharon Moriwaki, Jim Alberts, and Jay Fidel here in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. 4 to 5 p.m. Wednesday. Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, welcome back. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii digital series. And I'd like to let you know, if you would ever like to join us in our downtown studio audience, please email jay@thinktechhawaii.com and we will hook you up. Okay, so we're back talking with SheenRu Yong and Ronald Gilliam of PlayBuilders and the Fringe Festival. So here, I'd like to go back a little bit with both of you and talk about how you came to this type of work. You both have a passion for community collaborative pieces, which is near and dear to my heart. And I'd like to hear, I have had sort of my aha moment. I'd like to hear how you got there. Would you like to start, SheenRu?
Sure. I keep being put on the spot first.
You went, this is...
No,
I should go ahead. The next question I'm totally going to put on him first, and it's going to be harder.
Not gender stereotyping here.
So you started off, you were a little girl dancing?
No, actually I started dancing in university.
Ooh.
And that's actually why I'm really interested in accessible work and interested in community collaborative models, because I discovered it so late as a dancer. Most people start when they're quite young. But because I got into it relatively late, and because it changed my life and my personal understanding of myself in relation to the world, it changed it so much that it feels like a pity that more people don't have that opportunity. And so that is kind of like my aha moment. It's more like an elongated 4 years in university. But
dancing or the collaborative work changed how you felt in relation to the rest of the world?
First dancing, understanding and learning experientially through the body really changed because I also studied philosophy, history, and literature. So I was doing the real cerebral left brain stuff, and then also discovering dance and taking my first dance classes and my first performance studies and theory classes. So that really changed my understanding of myself and how I learn and how people can learn, multiple intelligences. And then from there, that kind of organically has evolved into community collaborative ideas and models, because I feel like everybody is a dancer and everybody can dance. We all have bodies. And then, of course, then into theater and performing in a lot of different ways. So that was kind of my aha, my own introduction into being able to access means of expressions that I didn't have access to before.
Yeah. Okay, so I read something interesting in one of these pieces of paper about you talking about how the body relates, how we relate to the world, to other people, and to the environment. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's a really intriguing sentence.
Yeah. For me, the body is kind of a microcosm of everything. I mean, we hear that often, right? Like the body is the universe. And to me, I often think of the body as it's a personal entity, personal body, and then there's a group body, which is our social, our collective structures, and then there's the earth body, which is the environment. And I see those things as completely interrelated, and anytime you work on any of those levels, it's going to affect the other ones. So it's kind of micro to macro. This is very abstract.
Yeah, but it's really stirring.
Yeah, but I think...
I find it stirring to you,
Yeah,
Ronald?
I agree.
Yeah, so that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of the, I guess, the paradigm that I work under, is just realizing that anytime you find something personally, it's going to affect the way that you treat the people around you. And that's going to affect also, of course, the way that you relate to the earth and the environment and everything that's happening. So.
Yeah, I think I would even go, I would take that even further and say when you find something that changes the way, that changes a negative feeling to a positive, I think there's an immediate reaction in the environment as well as among those people around us, that it happens long before we have it, what might be considered an interaction in layman's terms. I get a little esoteric there, but I'm in one of those moods today.
Sounds fun.
We'll go there with you. I'm going there with you.
Fabulous. Okay, so you had your aha moment, and then where did that lead you?
So from university, I went to, and I have to also give credit to the university that I went to, which introduced dance in a way that was accessible to a lot of people. So I didn't go in as a dance major. I went to Wesleyan University, where they taught the practice and the theory of dance together. So that really inspired me. And then I danced and choreographed in New York for a few years. And then I ended up in Taipei and going and continuing with dance there, and then studying choreography and dancing with a company out there.
One doesn't just end up in Taipei, though.
That's true. Yeah, it wasn't a pit stop. Actually, at the time I thought it was a pit stop, but I ended up there for 9 years. So yeah. Well, how do I backtrack on that? I burnt out in New York. It's an exhausting scene out there. It's great for an artist, but it's also hard. And at the time I was young and was thinking, I don't have to be a performer. I don't need this. I just started, and so I started traveling and actually stopped in Hawaii 10 years ago. And that changed my life in a totally different way. And then I continued to island hop, and I went to Taiwan. I thought for a year or two to learn Chinese, but I ended up staying, and life happens, so.
And were you involved in dance or community collaborative work there?
Yeah, I did my MFA in choreography there, and then I danced in a company there, Legendland Dance Theater, and I also did some community collaborative work there as well. Yeah, that's actually when I started creating workshops for dancers and non-dancers to dance together, and to kind of as research also that dance and the performing arts and these means of expression are accessible and relevant to all of us.
And was that very cutting edge there, avant-garde, or was that something that sort of was already happening?
No, it's not happening. I don't know if it was avant-garde. I think it was, it wasn't really accepted.
Oh.
Yeah, which may be what avant-garde is. But yeah, it wasn't very popular is what I mean. That these ideas that I was presenting, I mean, I think people who are not in the art circle there really appreciated that, but I feel like artists can be quite protective too of their work and of, you know, their identities, and so I was challenging that. So, yeah. But I mean, Taipei is a great place. There are a lot of things happening. There are more and more opportunities for people to find creative means of expression. Yeah. Yeah. But it's not common. No.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of risk involved when you to involve a community. There's risk involved when you cast a show with professional actors. Yeah. Let's be frank. Yeah. There's risk when you involve people who do not have that kind of experience or don't have experience doing what you are bringing to them. And then, man, is there a lot of risk when you involve an audience in the work that you're doing. And the work very often morphs into something unrecognizable at that time, and there's risk in whether or not you're going to accept that. And PlayBuilders is really, I think they have a lot of chutzpah doing what they do.
It's not easy, but it's quite rewarding, I think, overall. And we make sure that we don't do any production unless it's Pono with the community we're working with. So it's very important for us to have that kind of gathering. And actually tonight, Terry is not able to be here with us because she's preparing for the first reading of a production in Waipahu. We're doing a Waipahu project. In April, actually, it'll go up. And the second draft of the play is being read to the community tonight, and they're going to be judging us. So it's exciting and also nerve-wracking as well. But anything that's not considered Pono by that community is removed with no questions asked. So you're right, it can be a completely different production, especially when you're working with, you know, sometimes people hear or see things and it may be offensive for them, but there may have an artistic intent that the artist would want to bring forward. But our goal is not to offend people, it's to create community. So sometimes you have to let your ego go and just say, well, that could have been a great moment, but we need to focus on the other parts that the community likes.
Yeah. Well, and there's got to be some, yes, you let your ego go, but as people who work in the theater, we know that some things are going to be more moving because of A, B, and C. So sometimes there's hand-holding, and sometimes I imagine a little tugging.
Yeah, yeah.
Just give it a shot and breathe into it.
Yeah. It's always helpful. Something that always helps me actually is my yoga background, and one of my teachers always said you have to remember the beginner's mind whenever, you know, you're approaching the mat yourself or if you're teaching a class. So I think that's always important for community collaborative work, because you have to remind yourself that the person in front of you may have a problem with something in the production, or they may want things changed, but you have to come from their perspective, and maybe they don't know artistic intent or the dramatic rise and fall of a script that are quite vital for a full production and considered, you know, good in a way in Western theater. So it's always challenging, but it's very rewarding, because when you finish it and then the community responds positively in a way, and they think, wow, our stories are important enough to be put in a drama on stage for everyone to see. It's quite amazing what happens, I think.
Yeah. I saw the Chinatown piece, and that was, I saw it in Chinatown, and some of the people who had been interviewed were in the audience with me, and that was really moving to be a part of that with them, because their stories were fascinating. I think everybody's stories are fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, it's just a matter of telling this, you know, stripping it away and getting the story out, and understanding that all of those experiences really are important in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Does PlayBuilders, I know that in that community story work, there's the integrity of the story, and there is the integrity of working with the community, and sort of, and PlayBuilders is relatively young. I think it was pretty new when I got to the island 3 years ago.
That was the first piece that we did that you saw, the Chinatown piece. And
okay.
we've grown a lot since then. We've learned a lot. We've made mistakes, and like any new company, you work through your mistakes, and those that are successful are the ones that are navigating them well and growing from learning from them, I think.
Yeah, and clearly you are.
Yeah.
That's exciting. And sort of the next step along the path is you gather the stories and you share the experience through the art. And this is a big part of Joe Carson's work, was sometimes reframing what happened to heal.
Oh yeah, completely. That actually happened with Yes I Am, and maybe I speak about that performance a lot because I directed it, I helped to devise it, but we did 2 versions of it because we consider most of our pieces or our target communities that we work with cycles, so we don't stop. So if we go into a community and we build a play, that doesn't mean that's the end of those stories, because those individuals are still, you know, living. They still go through their life, and we believe that, like you said, stories are always worth telling and hearing and watching and seeing them grow and develop. But we did our first Yes I Am in Kaka'ako at the Fresh Cafe, and the majority of people that we interviewed that were part of that initial group, because our actors, our community actors, go out and interview. They're the investigators per se, I guess. But they interviewed an older population of the LGBT community, and the stories were quite dark. Because these are individuals who had grown up not being able to be who they are. I mean, they had to hide. A lot of them had more safety issues than LGBT people have today, but there's still safety issues in our community for many populations, not just LGBT community. But so we had that first production, and the stories were pretty dark, and it was a way for the community to heal. And actually the whole piece, the way it was set up, because it is kind of an organic process, you kind of go with what the community allows you to do. So the piece used masks as our main prop to have this idea of coming out. And the actors made their own masks. It became very significant for them because when they put on the mask, they became a character. When they took off the mask, they said their own words. And you know, maybe the audience didn't necessarily get that to the end, but when the audience came into the space, they were given a mask as well too. And they were told whenever they had moments that made them feel uncomfortable, or if they felt the urge, they could put on their mask, but they could take them off whenever they felt comfortable. Well, they didn't realize, but throughout the whole piece, the very ending piece, we had a center, it was a vessel, but it was actually a trash can to kind of have this idea of not everything that's dirty is in the trash can. And it's good to pull things out and put them back in. But in the very end of the piece, we invited the audience to let go of their mask because the actors had done that in the very final piece of the show. The actors who portrayed and interviewed everyone, they said something quite powerful to the audience about their own perception and their own growth in the process. It's kind of their own coming out, even though the majority of them were allies and considered themselves allies instead of part of the LGBT part of the acronym. And the people at the very end, when they were asked to discard their mask and think something positive for the community that they got to participate in listening to their stories, it became almost like a ritualistic cleansing process. And it was a very interesting part of theater for me because I've never seen every single audience member in any piece that I've done before, community collaborative or not, take such precise movement toward doing something and taking such care and just letting go of their mask. And then they all kind of left the space in this cleansing moment of being closer to this community. So it was quite beautiful in that regard.
That's inspiring,
Yeah.
and I had goosebumps. We have to go to break. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. We will be right back. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii Digital Series. Please stay put.
Hi, I'm your host on ThinkTech Asia, Bill Sharp. I look forward to you joining us each Monday between 4 and 5 o'clock when we film right here in our studio in downtown Honolulu. The show, ThinkTech Asia, focuses on contemporary events in Asia. And by Asia, we mean anything from Hawaii, south to Australia and New Zealand, west to Pakistan, and as far north as the Russian Far East. Clearly, this is one of the most economically dynamic centers of the world, and we bring you up to date on what's going on in a whole host of countries in this very vital region. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Hi, we're back and we're live. This is Center Stage on the ThinkTech Hawaii Digital Series. I'm Donna Blanchard, your host and proud managing director of Kumukuhua Theater. We are coming to you from Pioneer Plaza in the heart of downtown Honolulu, very near Kumukuhua Theater. I am talking with SheenRu Yong and Ronald Gilliam, and primarily you came to me through Misa Tupou, who puts together the Fringe Festival. So I want to make sure, without further ado, that we talk about that. Your performances are on February 12th at 9 p.m. and February 14th at 10:30 p.m. at the Arts at Mark's Garage. And people can find out about that on oahufringe.com. was really elegant the way I did that. Classy.
Misa deserves the credit, though. He does amazing things for the community.
Misa does an amazing job, and he is so invested in Chinatown and Kaka'ako. And he's just, I tease him all the time that I never go to anything in Kaka'ako without seeing him there, and magically he turns up. He's very invested in the arts community and in this notion of collaboration and the import of all of our work.
Yeah.
So I appreciate him for bringing you here. Thanks, Misa. So where should we go from here? I have a little bit, SheenRu, I'd like to talk with you. Oh, you know what, Ronald, we didn't get to hear about your aha moment.
Oh, my aha moment. Actually, I think you'll appreciate this one because I went to undergrad at Butler University in Indianapolis.
I went to Butler for a year.
So I know, yeah. I meant to tell you that before we went on the air, but I forgot. My aha moment actually was, my whole life I had been performing because my mother, she had no clue she was making an artist. But every summer there was this summer drama camp that she put me in called Pro Art Association Drama Camp, and it's a nonprofit who tries to get young children in the Appalachian region to learn stagecraft, and you learn everything, and you do everything from acting to building the set to doing dance pieces to singing, and they make a big production. So I did that, as a kid, and I wanted to go to school to learn theater and become a professional performer, like many people that start their theater career. And I had this opportunity one time through a professor at Butler who had said, oh, you should audition for this show. It's very different than what you do, but I think you have the personality to audition, and it's with Theater of Inclusion. I don't know if you've heard of them before, but they're kind of called TOI, T-O-I is their acronym. But it's two individuals, Dante and Rebecca, in Indianapolis, and they work with a community collaborative model, but I don't know if they consider themselves community collaborative. What they do is they also believe that everybody can perform. So they create dance theater pieces with people who are paraplegic or who have mental disabilities. And the whole process of learning and working with them, we did a piece called The Becoming that it was about a 6-month process, and it happened after the events that happened at 9/11, so it was a very emotional time for most Americans. And so that piece, we had to go through training of learning how to work with people who have difference in body weight, and maybe they'll randomly decide to do something, and you have to learn how to save. Both them for safety and your own safety. So we did a lot of contact improv and a lot of dance with them to create this dance theater piece. And it was quite a phenomenal moment. I never in my life thought that someone who is in a wheelchair could dance the most beautiful dance possible. And there's this one particular moment of this piece that was my aha moment, is that Twyla Tharp's cousin actually was in this company, Carol Tharp-Perrin. And she was dancing with a gentleman who is paraplegic, and I think he may have had a coma or a stroke or something, and half his body he was unable to move it. And we actually pulled him out of his wheelchair, and they did a dance. And the dance was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I think because it was such small movement, but it was two bodies that were moving in space in sync, and it still kind of gives me chills thinking about this particular piece. So that was kind of my aha moment, that you don't need to have a lifetime of training to be able to perform and tell your story and to be a phenomenal performer. Sometimes I think it's intuitive inside us as humans, because this is why we like watching TV and film and theater, is because we like hearing our stories, we like seeing our stories. So if you take this idea, you can bring art in a way of expressing yourself in a creative manner that's quite phenomenal. That's not just about memorizing your lines and then getting your script and then going on the stage and having a director tell you to go here. I mean, that is part of the process, but when people are organically able to tell their stories or tell a story that they collected, it's quite a powerful thing. So that was my aha moment, and somewhat a connection, since I know you were in Indianapolis for a while. So.
Yeah, it's not, thank you for that. It's, it sounds like it's also, we're all telling stories with our bodies all the time, every day, right now.
Here we are.
Yeah, And the recognition of that, I think the more we recognize the import of what we have, what we bring to the table individually, the more we recognize the import of who we are as a human unit.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what's next for you, SheenRu?
The show next week, so my headspace is there.
That's where you are.
I have music to edit and last rehearsals to go through, and we go up next week. So that's what's immediate. And then right after that, we're going to launch into the longer-term collaboration I'm doing with PlayBuilders, the piece about water. So it's called Flood, Turn the Tide. And we're going to be starting interviews and workshops all around Oahu. Still scheduling those, still looking for community partners. So if anyone is listening and is interested in this project, we're game.
Like who? Like what sort of entities are you looking for?
Yeah, it's really open right now. People keep asking me to focus, like what exactly about water is this piece on? But I was actually really inspired by so many conversations and stories I heard when I was here a year ago. You know, everything from Hukalea, you know, about voyaging and navigation and that aspect of water, migration, immigration stories and trends, to, you know, freshwater resources, wastewater management, you know, all of the issues. Yeah. But so we're looking for community partners who are either doing work in those fields already, you know, in the environment, or educational groups. And I piloted a few workshops at a school in Taiwan with middle schoolers. So, you know, that's a venue also where we could collect stories. Oh. So we're looking kind of, it's very open actually. So anybody who's interested, maybe doing a unit on water in their curriculum, or is already, you know, going and doing rainforest like preservation. Any of those groups actually have stories that we want to hear. So,
do you know the Surfrider Foundation?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been talking to them too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Are you talking with Raphael?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. He sat where you are.
I
right
saw
now.
that. I saw that when I looked up your show. I thought, oh, I know some of these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some amazing work they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're connected.
Yeah.
I hear that we have some pictures from the pictures that you sent to me, and these are from your last. Are these from a rehearsal here? Can we put one of those up there, please, sir?
Those are for the piece that's going up next week. Yes.
Okay. And this is with a cast in, are you in New York? Or is this
no, this
rehearsal?
is the cast here.
Oh,
this is the cast
here. This is at LCC Lab Theater.
Yeah. This is at Leeward.
Oh, okay.
We're the resident theater company there, so that's primarily where we rehearse and we do our photo shoots and everything.
Nice. Oh, here's another one. It looks like, so there's 5 people involved in this.
Yes.
Total.
Yeah.
These are actually the PEN members, the PlayBuilders ensemble. We call them PEN, but these are our ensemble members that train with us every week.
Can we say who these people are?
In any particular order?
Left to right.
Left to right. Linda Shkreli, am I saying her last name right? Linda Shkreli, Mapu Antonio, George Yarbrough, Michelle Martin, and Becky McGarvey.
Okay, fabulous. Yeah. And here's the PlayBuilders website. Ta-da! Thank you, Zuri. You have a really nice website.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I like the updates that you brought to them. Okay, so how should people get in touch with you? Should they go in through PlayBuilders if they
through
would like
PlayBuilders
to be a part of this?
is a good way to contact me. My email through PlayBuilders is sheenru.yong@playbuilders.org.
.yong@playbuilders.org. Playbuilders.org is the website.
Yes.
Yeah. And so you're involved in this work, and what else are you working on at PlayBuilders right now?
Well, we have lots going on because usually we work a year in advance. So our pieces, unlike traditional theater that can go up to 6 weeks, we have to start preparing a whole year because we have to do the workshops, interview the community, identify the community. That's important as well. So we actually have a piece we've been working on since last year, which is the Waipahu project, the one I told you about. So it's what it's called right now, but it actually will have a title. So we have these geographical pieces that we do, and we did one in Wahiawa before. and also like the Chinatown piece.
Yeah.
So they always have a title eventually, but we have to wait till we get to the title before we can announce it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I gotta
okay.
go. I just asked you a big question,
Oh,
and
sure.
then I found out that I have to go. But people can find information on
PlayBuilders.org, yeah.
PlayBuilders.org, and we'll see the title soon. When is it scheduled to go up?
It's April 20, I think it's 21st through 23rd, but it's on our website. It's end of April is when the piece will go up.
Okay.
LCC main stage, so it's our most ambitious project.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you for having
And
us.
thank you for being here. And let me thank Sachi Slomov, who is our floor director, floor manager, and our studio engineer, Zuri Bender, who is in my ear, and Jay Fidel, who somehow manages to put it all together. We will see you here next week with more guests from the Honolulu Fringe Festival. See you then. Bye.